So we're going to get started. All right, so welcome. My name is Estella Lugo. I am the Program Development Manager for the Hereditary Neuropathy Foundation. And this is our newest and latest edition of our CMT-Connect webinars, where our mission is to educate, empower, and connect the CMT community with vital resources and experts to help everybody have a better quality of living. So us here at the H&F team, we are mostly living with CMT ourselves, so we really understand the trials and tribulations of living with CMT, and especially the trials and tribulations that come with AFOs. I myself have been wearing AFOs since kindergarten and have been through many, many pairs. So we really want to keep everybody up to date on some of the newest technology out there, and we really hope you benefit from tonight's webinar. It will be recorded, and usually those recordings take about 2 or 3 days. We will upload it to our YouTube channel and send that out via email. So if you're not able to stay for the full duration, no worries, we'll be sending that out as well. So yes, as I mentioned, tonight our webinar is about bracing, and as you know, many people with CMT are wearing orthotics. So today we have Kinetic Research joining us, and we have Valarie O'Brien. Valarie is a certified orthotist, and she also oversees the production of carbon fiber devices at Kinetic Research. And you'll also meet Barbara Burley, who was one of her patients before actually becoming an employee at Kinetic Research, which is a super great story we'll be learning a little bit more about. And so we are teaming up tonight with CMT patients everywhere to get the best fit and function for their AFOs. So let's take a quick look at our intro video.
I've been in the O&P field for almost 20 years. I was a hands-on technician while earning my degree as a certified prosthetist orthotist. While I see some of our legacy patients, my primary role is overseeing our production facility in Tampa, Florida. This is the home of the Noodle AFO. This popular, ultra-lightweight carbon fiber brace was designed and patented by our owner, Wade Bader. It was the first of its kind when it debuted in 2006. Today, there are many imitators, but nothing duplicates the combined durability, comfort, and dynamic properties of our patented process. Before we get too far, it's important to understand how Kinetic Research is different from other brands. If you are a family member currently wears a Kinetic Research device, your practitioner made the request directly to us. We manufacture and distribute all under one roof to practitioners around the world. If you wear a different device, chances are your practitioner made the request to a distributor who then makes the request to the manufacturer. We make the process more efficient and believe patients have better success with their devices when their practitioners directly work with the manufacturer. It's very common for a practitioner to call me when they have a special feature or functionality the patient desires. And because we build everything here, I can then easily work with a technician on modifications. Whether your symptoms are mild or you need more support, I'm going to show you a full range of devices that we design and manufacture that help restore balance and stability. Later, Barb and I will let you know how we can work together to help you walk as normally as possible.
I don't know that I ever walked normally. My dad and I both have the disease. My father had an incredible career in the military. He was an Army pilot, and he served in Vietnam. He made it to full colonel before he was diagnosed. Looking back at old family videos, I had a little bounce in my step and walking on my toes, and I remember rolling and spraining my ankles a lot. As a teen, I played sports, cheered, always active. I went to college, graduated, started a career. Good morning, Farnsworth. And this would be the first time I experienced any notable symptoms of CMT. Numbness in my hands made it difficult to hold a microphone. A trip to the neurologist, and the doctor said, the Charcot-Marie tooth run in your family. I'm like, what the is that? You walk, you trip, you fall. I was only 25, but so it began. I was in my 40s when I received my first AFO, and over time I would try several brands and try to find ways to make them more comfortable until I literally stumbled into Kinetic Research. That was 10 years ago. Now I work for Kinetic Research alongside Valarie, who's keenly aware of issues that face CMT patients. And while the Noodle was a great fit for 10 years, I switched to our newest AFO, the Nano. For someone like me who prefers a sneaker over a flat shoe, it's an even better fit inside because the foot plate follows the curves of the shoe versus a standard flat foot plate that takes up space. And I found a great use for my noodles. Val cut them to fit perfectly in a sandal. No one gets excited about wearing an AFO, but we can get excited about the custom options that are available.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. We're super excited to have you here, and I'm really excited to kind of give you guys a good overview of what we provide here. We know every CMT patient's activity level is a little different. Your symptoms are different. The way you present can be different. That's why we want you to know what custom options are available for better fit and function, so you can discuss these options with your practitioner before getting your AFO. During your evaluation, your CPO should discuss with you your activity level. What do you do? What kind of support do you need? Don't be afraid to tell them realistically what you want to accomplish so they can determine how to build the AFO. The more you tell them, the more they're going to be able to design something specifically for your activity level. So going into a little bit more with the plastic devices here, how active are you? Plastic devices are often the first prescribed thing because they're quicker and they're easier to fit and adjust than carbon fiber. They are, however, stiff and bulky and can change shape over time. Carbon fiber is the best option for maximizing performance with minimum weight. This next slide is a video of a patient who was seen in our office. Even though he does not suffer from CMT, he has real life experience with using plastic in comparison to carbon fiber.
I had a wakeboarding accident back in '06, and I had a hyperextension, and it tore the nerves and some of the tendons, and it left me with drop foot after. I started out with a plastic AFO, which felt like an immobilizer. It was hard to have like a smooth gait. It had a lot of support, but it was really uncomfortable. It'd have large welts and blisters form on my feet, particularly on my heel. Started to look for a brace that I could progress with and not, kind of be held back by thinking there's a better way than this. And sure enough, Wade came up with it. And as soon as I got into the Noodle, it was really comfortable because it's formed to my contours on my leg, and it was flexible, kind of went along with my leg. Whereas the plastic AFO will hold my leg stationary, and I didn't have any flexibility, so it would wear out. Besides the comfort, it's a lot easier to walk because I have this little bit of flexibility, and I can kind of go heel toe. And for the most part, I don't think people can tell that I'm wearing an AFO, so that's always fun. My activity level's pretty much back to normal. Really haven't been limited. I've gone on long hiking trips, biking, pretty much I'm back to normal as far as, what I can do. And even skateboarding a little bit. It's been a really good fit so far. I actually haven't been looking for braces since because I'm happy with the way things are going. I enjoy working with you all. The accident changed my life, and the Noodle has allowed me to return back to normal. So that's about all I could ask, I guess.
So what do we mean by dynamic? The most dynamic AFOs that we offer here are the Noodle and the Nano. The Nano Barb kind of described in the intro video, where it has a little bit of a heel cup at the back of the heel. So basically you have your normal AFO, but I know it's kind of hard to see, but what the Nano would have, instead of this flat surface, you would actually have a little bit of a contouring here. And what that does is it helps sit down inside the shoe, and it really helps kind of stabilize it in there. But dynamically, what we mean is this right here. So you actually have some bend and move and give with the AFO. So another way to describe this is kind of like a spring, or even not so much the spring in this picture, like it's compressing and it's expanding to give you that energy. It's also kind of like a rubber band, where the further you stretch it out, the more it wants to pull it back to its normal position. And that's what we mean by dynamic energy. It can be felt when you're standing and walking. The Noodle and Nano are great AFOs if you suffer from some foot drop and don't need anything more rigid for more support, like knee buckling. So on to the next slide here. One option you have with the Noodle or the Nano is an anterior or posterior strut. There are pros and cons to both designs, and it's important to know which one might work for you. So let me get you an example here. So what we mean by anterior is when the brace runs up the front of your leg. And this gives you really good support if you have an unstable knee. So if you constantly feel like you're going to buckle and your knee's giving out as you're walking, the anterior is going to give you a little bit more support so you don't feel like you're just falling forward. It does tend to be a little bit more rigid, so you don't get as much motion through this one, but it is quite a bit easier to put on. And another thing you kind of have to worry about here is maybe some anterior pressure on this bone. So normally what a clinician can do is they can go in and they can add padding in here to really help take some pressure off that area. So really, this is really good for some knee stability. And then you have your posterior option. And this does give you more dynamic motion. So if you are a higher activity level person, this might be the better option for you, because instead of having the anterior shell when you're walking and you basically pull away with the strap, the posterior cuff supports you and it cups onto you. So that way it helps give you better leverage to pick up your foot. So if you do need a little bit more support, this can be ordered with a little shell that goes on the front, and it can help to give you some more stability. So once your practitioner figures out whether a posterior strut or a posterior cuff or an anterior cuff will benefit you, it's time to address the strut placement. So what we mean by the strut is the long piece that runs from the cuff down to the foot plate. So why is that important? So what you're going to see here in this picture is a normal neutral position. So it's when your foot's properly aligned and your ankles aren't rolling to the inside or the outside. In this picture, what we call neutral. So the reason why this is important and why it's important to figure out what position the strut needs to be on is because if this isn't properly evaluated and your ankles do roll, what can end up happening is you can get quite a bit of pressure on the inside of your foot here, and it can cause some blistering and bruising. So going back to the slides here, if your ankles roll towards the outside, you are going to want a strut that's more on the inside of your body, or what we call medially. And if your ankles roll out or towards the inside, you want a strut that's placed on the outside of the AFO. So that way we're not causing any pressure issues. If you do have issues with ankle instability, there's a wide range of options to help you. Sometimes you may need something a little bit more minimal, like an insert, which would just be paired and put on top of the AFO. You can also get a contoured foot plate, and this is built right inside the AFO. It does make it a little bit more rigid, but it gives you some really good support, and it can be paired even with like a little inner boot here. So I have just little kid one. So we can make these little plastic pieces that wrap up over your ankles to really help stabilize, and in combination with the AFO, you really get some good side-to-side support. So if you're looking for something a little bit more, if you need more control, we do have some other options while keeping you
a lot more dynamic. So on the left side, you're going to see what we call a valga noodle, and on the right side we have the soto. So let me pull up the video or the camera here, and what I'd like to do is actually show you what these devices look like. So there we are. Okay, so this is what we call a dynamic valga noodle, and what this does is it allows dynamic dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. And what you have is a little tab on the side here. And what this does, it helps pull you back over. So if your ankle's rolling laterally, which most CMT patients have lateral instability, we have this piece that runs down the side of your leg, and this paddle really kind of holds onto your leg and helps pull you back over. This is kind of shown with a flat foot plate. We can also do a contoured foot plate. So it wraps up around your heel and into your arch to give you some really good support that way as well. So this is a nice lightweight option to give you quite a bit of motion, so you don't feel like you're just walking in a stiff, rigid device. The other one that I have prescribed for a lot of CMT patients, and it's done a really good job of helping to stabilize the ankle. It's called the soto. And what it basically is, it's our noodle AFO, and it pairs the AFO with what we call a hemi SMO. And let me take the strap off here. You're going to hear the ripping sound of the Velcro. So what this is it's this flexible tab that is on the side. And what it does is it wraps up around your ankle bone. And with the pair, with the strap, it wraps over the top of your foot, and it really helps pull you back in. So you get really good support through the soto. So what I like about this is it does bend and move and give. So that way it moves with you. So as you're ambulating and actually taking your steps, you're not getting all the pressure. Plus, it's very easy to adjust. So your practitioner can go in, make little windows if you have a really bony ankle. You can also have the pretibial shell that just kind of floats on the front to give you a little bit more support, while also getting all the good dynamic motion of the AFO. So really lightweight design. I know it looks funky. It looks like it would be big and clunky, but it's really well formed to your foot. So you really don't have a lot of extra stuff. So instead of having two separate pieces with, things you can lose, you have it built into one. So it takes away all the extra stuff. And because it's carbon fiber, like I said, we're still keeping it dynamic, and we can actually trim away all the excess stuff that you really don't need. So it just takes away some of that extra material that people are trying to shove in your shoe. So on to the next slide. So this is more of a rigid, minimal dynamic energy. So with these designs, on the left is a solid valga noodle, and then on the right we have our posterior element, or PLS AFO, and then even further on the right is a solid ankle. So the one all the way to the right, that one has no dynamic motion, but it really gives you good support. So if you're really trying to immobilize the ankle so you don't have much movement, that's the design you want. But once again, I like to give people as much motion as possible, because if you've got the range of motion, if you can move through that motion and have the muscles, I'd rather you use your muscles than go to something that's going to take that away. So I do have a solid valga noodle here. We've got this really cool little camo pattern on it, but this is more solid, so you're not going to have any motion forward or backward, but you still have that paddle, so you can get the pull to help correct your ankle. And then you also do have a little bit of motion across the toe here as well, so you can see that. So as you get to the end of your step, it is going to roll over, and it's going to allow you to have some motion there. And then I do have a posterior leaf spring, and so it's just the one little strut in the back. And this is really good for more moderate to severe hyperextension at the knee as well, this does control that a lot better, because you actually have something you can anchor the foot to and really help control that. This can be a lot more flexible. This one I've got is really pretty stiff, but what we do is we actually take a look at your height, your weight, your activity level, and we build these specifically for you. So what, you know, I would put on a 100-pound person is going to be a little bit different than I would put on a 150-pound person. So it varies. So what we do is we evaluate, you know, what you're doing. Once again, that's that physical activity. You need to communicate that with your practitioner so that way we can build it better for you. All right. So I know you saw a few of the custom finishing options that we have. We have a big range on our website. I think we did put a link in the chat for our website. So what I would do is I would go look at that. We have a whole bunch of little fabrics and patterns that we can pick from to put on your AFO. But if you have something at home, if you have a material that you really, really like, a sports team, something special to you, like Barb's father, he wanted a little clip of the Air Force, right, Barb? Army, sorry. He brought in a little piece of fabric that had an Army logo on it. And we put that directly into the AFO just to make it cool, make it something that you actually like wearing. Because what's the point of, well, I mean, the point is to help you walk, but you want to make it fun. You want to make it something for you. You want to make it personal. So that brings us to the dreaded shoe wear. I know this is a common problem across the board, but it is important to have decent shoes. So in front of you, you're going to see a picture of 3 different shoes. The one all the way on the left doesn't really have a heel height. On the one on the right has a little bit more. So most shoes will fall into a heel range. They've got like either a 1/4 inch heel height, and they range up to a 1/2 inch heel height. Your practitioner is really going to need to look at this because that does really affect how the AFO is going to work for you. And you'll see this kind of in this slide here. So you can see something that has a really flat heel. It might work for you, but then when you try to put it in something that has a bigger heel, it's going to tilt you all the way forward. So when you go in to be evaluated for an AFO, make sure you have something that's a pretty regular heel height for what you normally wear. It doesn't mean that you can't ever go out and get a different shoe, different heel height. It just means that if you're going to do that, the practitioner needs to know so they can give that ability to adjust it with maybe putting a heel wedge in the heel of the shoe to kind of boost you up. So that way you're walking in a stable position. So you're not feeling like you're falling backwards or forwards. All right. Another thing that you're going to want to address with your practitioner is also shoe size. So I know a lot of people are not crazy about having to go up a shoe size. With the noodle or the nano, it's not typical for you to have to do that. But you also have to be realistic with your shoe size. So when I was seeing patients, it was a common theme. I would get some patients in where they swore they had been a size 7.5 their entire life. And then when I would measure their foot, they're really a size 9. And they're like, no, I have been a size 7.5 my entire life. Well, bodies change. Everybody knows this. What a 15-year-old girl has is going to be very different than what a 45-year-old woman has. So there's things that happen. Bodies change, feet change. So over time, ligaments relax, your feet spread out. Us ladies get lovely things called bunions and calluses, and this is all normal stuff. So don't be afraid to go up in a shoe size when you really need to. It's really important so that way you're not scrunching your toes up and creating more issues by not wearing the right size. Alrighty. So on the next slide, we have insurance. So insurance has been very confusing and difficult to navigate for a very long time. Orthotics is currently considered as durable medical equipment, otherwise known as DME. Most insurance companies will pay for some or all of your AFO, but it's important to make sure. If you're planning to get health insurance, you want to make sure that they do cover DME. The best way to check this is to reach out and ask the clinic you want to be seen at if they accept your insurance. Some insurance companies will also receive or require prior authorization before you can receive your AFO, and this can take some time. You can also call and ask your insurance if they cover L codes. L codes are listed under the DME section, and all AFOs are given L codes. On the side, it shows you like the anterior, that's a prefabricated device on the left. That's considered an L1932. The one on the right is considered a prefab. It's also an L1951. What I mean by prefab is it's just something that's readily available. It's considered off the shelf. So what you want to do is, if you're interested, you can call the insurance and ask them if they cover L codes. If they do say yes, there's a chance that they will pay at least a portion towards your AFO. But before anything is ordered for you, make sure you are aware of your financial responsibility. So your CPO is going to know best. So make sure you're talking about all these options with them. You want to make sure that you're giving them all the information they might need to make the best AFO possible for you. We have lots of videos available on our website. There's lots of products that are available on our website, and we're available for this. So we make, and everything we make in adult size, we make in a pediatric version too. So we're here to help you, and here is how. So we're here to we're available to discuss options with your CPO. If you don't have somebody already, email us. That's Barb's email at the bottom. We're here to help you find somebody. We want to make sure we can connect you with somebody who's gonna listen to your ideas and concerns and really find something that's tailored for you specifically. And then just one last feel good thing here.
Wow. No, what a difference. I could never stand before without holding on to something. She was crying because she hasn't seen me walk with that much stability.
AFO braces has really made a difference in my life, and it gives you so much more mobility and freedom, and it gives you some dignity back, and you know, more than anything, being able to stand. It just excites you to be back up on your feet.
2 days after you gave these to me, I went to work 4 hours at Metropolitan Ministry where I was on my feet cooking at a grill for 4 hours, and I didn't have any problems.
Gone on long hiking trips, biking, and even skateboarding a little bit.
Still can work out, go to the gym. I'm doing squats, I'm doing seated squats on machines, and standing squats, all of it.
You know, I wear the KFO braces all day, every day, and it's really important for me to have the right fit and the right design.
The noodle is, you know, great because it's minimal.
They go on real easy. More important is they just feel right.
They're made to where it does propel you.
It's more flexible. It's the best thing I've found. It's like my lifeline. If I didn't have this, I don't know what I'd be doing.
All right, so I'm going to leave this up for a few minutes, and then I do definitely want to take some questions. If you guys have questions, that's what we're kind of here for. So I want to make sure we're answering anything that you're curious about.
Yes, thank you so much, Valerie. That was an excellent, excellent presentation. I know we are receiving a few questions here. I myself have a few too, so I'm super excited for this conversation. Feel free to type your questions in the Q&A, or if it's something that is better explained verbally, you can raise your hand. We just ask that you are considerate of the time restrictions and don't take up too much time, but we definitely want to get your answers to your questions. So I'll start with one we had come in here regarding Velcro. When the Velcro eventually wears out, is it possible to repair it, or does the AFO require replacement at that point?
Okay, so that's a good question, because they do wear out. There's pads and Velcro does pretty typically wear out because it's something that you're using every day. So it is something that is fairly easy to replace. Depending on what clinic you go to, they should be able to do something right there in their office. If they do not have the capability, we always open it up where it can be sent back to us. We can fix it really quick and then get it back to you with as minimal time possible, because we know you need these to walk in. So we're gonna take them back, clean them up, fix them up, make them look brand new again, and then send them right back out to you.
Awesome. What is the warranty? I know it's very common for some carbon fiber braces to crack and under pressure, obviously, of very active people, or just what is the warranty on a brace like this if that occurs?
So our products have a 1-year warranty, and it pretty much covers almost anything. I did have one that literally got run over by a car, and we just replaced it because stuff happens. And carbon fiber, it's tricky. It's really tricky. And after a ton of experience, you finally think you've got it figured out, and then you learn something more. It's like I've been in this for a long time, and every time I think I know everything about carbon, something else pops up, and I was like, light bulb, why didn't I think of that before? So full 1-year warranty, and we're going to cover it. And even after the 1-year warranty, I typically, if something breaks, I'm going to look into it. I'm going to see why it broke, what happened. Was it something that we manufactured incorrectly? I'm not just going to leave you empty-handed without help. So if something like that happens, reach out to your practitioner, get back in there, get seen, and then they can give me a call, and we'll work through the steps of why it broke and what we can do to do better.
Okay, so just to clarify, carbon fiber can't be repaired once it's snapped. It needs to be replaced, right? The whole brace?
Typically. Yeah, that is the honor, because carbon fiber is good in so many ways, but when it breaks, that it's like a chemical bond. Once it's broken, it's broken. There's nothing really to fix it.
Understood. We had a question here from Catherine. Do you work with myopathy patients?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And does Medicare insurance typically pay for custom bracing?
Medicare typically does. Now with Medicare, they typically only will cover 80% after you've met the deductible. So as long as you meet your deductible, they'll pay up to 80%, and then the 20% typically is an out-of-pocket cost for you, unless you have some sort of secondary to come in and pay for the rest of it.
Okay. All right. Then we had another question here. My orthotist says I need a non-articulating, oops, I just lost my spot there, AFO, but the stiff gait makes walking difficult. I don't have foot drop, so why would a noodle with the boot insert work for me?
So non-articulating, what that means is without a joint. So it doesn't necessarily mean no dynamic motion.
Okay.
Barb, do you have, sorry, I'm talking with Barb because I would like to see if I can get an articulated one.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have one with a joint?
Yeah.
Barb's my go-to. She's
Yep,
gonna grab one. If you hear crashing in the background, it's her fumbling through AFOs. Yeah, she's got one. She's got a really pretty one.
Yay.
Okay, so this joint, that's an articulation. So when the doctor says they don't want an articulation, it means they don't want this. So like I said, that doesn't mean we can't give you dynamic motion. So this, like our noodle here, this does not have an articulation, it's just dynamic. So this would technically fall under the prescription of the doctor and work for what they're asking for.
Okay. So how much do you work with the doctor? Because if it's a doctor that doesn't necessarily see a lot of CMT patients, can you go in saying, I want this kind of brace, and work from there? Or, I mean, how much of a say do you have in the type of brace that you end up with? Can you change from one brace to another, or?
Yeah, so that's a common thing that I see every once in a while too, because we'll get an order for something and we fabricate it. I don't always get to look at every single order that comes in through the door. So what they'll do is they'll write their order and it'll get sent in. What we do is we send it out. If it doesn't work, I just need to know. Normally your clinician's going to call me and say, hey, this isn't working. We're getting pressure somewhere, it's too flexible, the patient feels like their knee is buckling, and then we're going to go through the steps. If we need to change an AFO completely open to that. We want to make sure we're taking care of you. So even as a manufacturer, I still have that background with seeing patients and evaluating and treating and trying to figure out what's going to work best for them. It's not always 100% perfect every single time, and sometimes it takes a little bit of work, but as long as you're patient with them and you're telling them the honest truth of what is working, what's not working, they can always reach out to me and we can tweak it and make it better.
Yeah, no, I think it's super important to be proactive as a patient, because we're the ones living in it, we're the ones walking in it. And I've had to go back many times to orthotists and say, this is not going to work for me. A lot of times you get sent home feeling defeated. Oh, you just need to wear it for weeks and get used to it. But there is a point where you need to speak up and say, this is not working for me. Also, I love that you spoke about the shoe heel, because up until recently, I've never ever been asked about the type of heel of shoe I wear. And it is completely right when you say that little 1/4 inch heel, even if it's in a sneaker, which we don't think of like sneakers having a heel, but really in reality, there's a slope to many sneakers, and that slope is going to be added to the angle of your ankle in the brace. So it's super important to make sure you speak up and bring those shoes to your orthotist and let them know that this is what I want measured and accounted for. I've also never been asked my weight in a clinical setting, which I think is very relevant, like you said. Can you tell us a little bit more about how somebody's weight is taken into consideration with a brace? Because obviously the flexibility of a brace is going to depend on your weight.
So the weight is very important, because if we don't have the correct weight, what ends up happening is the technician is then stuck just kind of looking at a model and hoping that they're getting it kind of in the right area. So with a little bit more weight, you want to add a little extra reinforcement so that way it isn't just breaking on you. Or if that's not evaluated and put into it, then what's going to happen is as you're going through the range of motion with the AFO, it's just not going to give you enough support. It's going to feel like you're just walking through it and it's not helping to pick your foot up. So it's like nobody likes to tell anybody their weight, and I get that. But in this case, it's important. Just try to be as accurate as possible, because it's going to help you in the long run.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've ended up with bracing that is way too stiff because, my weight is not taken into consideration. So super important. We had a question, of course. What is the range of cost if I pay out of pocket?
I would love to give you that idea. I don't have that information because we only provide 2 practitioners. So if you are looking for a cost, what you would need to do is go to them because they're the ones that are providing it to you, and they're going to be able to give you a better idea because everywhere is a little different. So like I said, I would love to tell you that. I can't even tell you a range.
Because the orthotist is the one determining the price.
Exactly.
So, but you can call your orthotist, ask them about your line of bracing. You also can call Kinetic Research and ask for a referral of an orthotist in your area, correct? Who's familiar with Kinetic Research, with your line of bracing, because that's also important. You don't want somebody providing this brace that is not familiar with how it works.
Exactly. And we've worked with so many companies across the country, and I did see something pop up about Canada too. We have practitioners all over the place that do fit these regularly. So what I would say is if you're trying to get connected with somebody, reach out to Barb, email her, and she'll be able to get you a few people in your area. And if we can't find somebody, I'll get on the phone and call practitioners and try to help you out.
Thank you. We have a question here regarding from Evelyn. She says her muscles are getting really skinny from the atrophy. Can her braces be adjusted or does she need new ones?
It just depends on how much atrophy you've experienced. If it's quite a lot where the calf cuff doesn't fit you anymore, you might need a new AFO. Plus, if you're kind of losing that limb shape, you might need to have something that's molded to a little bit better. So that is one of the things in insurance clauses. If you have a big medical experience where it changes your leg shape, you should be able to get a new AFO under insurance. It does take a lot of proof. You have to have the doctor on board, and you have to be able to have the clinician prove that you have changed in a status. But as long as there's good notes, they can submit it to the insurance and they should be able to get you a new device.
Okay, good information. What if your foot is not normally shaped and so the shoe sole is always an issue? How do you design an AFO around deformities? She says her foot is more like the letter C. So I'm assuming that's like a high arch, Mary, which is very, very common with CMT patients.
Yeah, so with the CMT progression, what ends up happening is you get a really bony heel, a really high arch, and then it's like your bones on the front of your feet almost protrude out, and it makes it really uncomfortable for fitting. So, and it's hard for shoes as well. So what we can do is with the custom AFOs, see here. So what I've got here is just kind of like a regular insert. What we would end up doing is actually taking from your model and actually molding this to you a little bit better, because what we want to do is actually get pressures along the entire base of your foot instead of just on the little tiny areas where you're prominent. And what that's going to do is it's going to help take away some pain. And then when you go to put this in the shoe, you want to make sure your shoe has enough room for you to actually fit inside it. And then if it is a little bit different of a shape, what we can do is maybe put a little wedge on the bottom of the heel of the AFO. We can put some, it's like a material, a padding on the bottom of the foot plate that will help wedge you in a different way so it fits better inside the shoe. Worst case scenario, if it's a really bad deformity, they might have to do something on the bottom of a shoe where they actually cut the sole a little bit, adjust the angle, and then glue the sole back on. So that way it gives you a really good base of support. And then it really helps to accommodate some of those weird angles.
Yeah. And there's a lot of new adaptive shoes coming out as well. I know Zappos Adaptive has a growing line of of AFO friendly shoes. So that's something that hopefully could be accommodated for as well. So you showed us that padding. So that padding is actually molded to the patient's foot.
Yeah, so on that insert, it is molded to the patient. We can basically do that on any one of our AFOs. I don't always, normally when you look at the insert, I try not to pair them with something that's contoured. I need, grab my PLS. I try not to pair this with this.
Right.
Then you have this on top of this inside the shoe, and it just takes up a lot of room. So normally I'll try to do one or the other.
Yep.
So that way
for like the noodle, that one.
Yeah, so like with this one, this would just fit right on top, and then it fits pretty intimately inside the shoe, so it's not so bulky, and you can wear better shoes.
Yeah, I mean, do you have patients that prefer no padding? I mean, is that not recommended to just have your foot on that metal? It's because I've tried it. It's been very painful for me.
Yeah, I can believe you. I don't normally recommend it unless your toes get stuck, because I know sometimes people kind of have that toe curling issue where they can't get into the shoe. It's like it turns over. So I don't typically recommend not having any kind of padding on the top of the foot plate, because this is carbon fiber. So what happens is if you don't have some sort of barrier between this and your skin, it rubs and rubs and rubs and rubs, and eventually it kind of wears away, and then you'll start seeing some of these carbon fiber pieces, and it's not really good for you. You don't want to be walking on that. So what I would say is, if that's a big issue and the toes are curling and you can't get into the shoe, what I've had some people do is they'll pad the foot plate, and then they might even put a little piece of duct tape from about middle of the AFO forward, so that way it creates like a non-friction circle that they can slide their toes in on.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of hacks that we see.
Little things.
Yeah, it's true though. It makes a difference. We had a question here if your AFO were covered to the DoD for veterans.
So we do work with VAs all over the place. So if you are an active military person, or if you've been in some branch of the service, you should be eligible to get into the VA system, and then they can order directly through us as well.
Right. We had somebody here, my calves have atrophied and I have drop foot. Any suggestions? So this is where your doctor really needs to evaluate how much foot drop you have, your gait, to recommend the type of bracing, and then to work with Valarie and the team to kind of provide you the best out there. Somebody asked about driving with AFOs. Do you have any insight on? I don't know if you can say yes or no to that, but I drive and I wear AFOs, so it is possible.
It just depends on your muscles and how comfortable you are. Sometimes, let me see where I'm throwing my AFOs everywhere, so I keep losing them. So like with this type of version, what you can do is you can actually flex down, and you can kind of flex your toe down too. So if you've got what we call plantar flexion, or that motion to point your toe down, you can actually flex right through the device and push on the pedal. But the safer option is just to actually physically
use your leg, right?
Use your leg, like pick your entire foot up and then drive with it. So that would be my recommendation. Or if you know it's going to be a big issue, you can always go anterior. And what up north, I'm down here, I've been in Florida my entire life, so I'm used to sandals and just very little because it's so hot down here. But up north, like even in boots, I've been told that the anterior, it's not even a functional thing, it's just that it's easier to put on with boots. So the anterior is an option, but what you can do if you're driving, you can actually, ripping Velcro sound, you can actually just loosen the strap, and then you can push down on the pedal.
Gotcha.
Because then it's open, and then just before you get back out, you put the strap back on, and it makes it easier that way.
That's a great tip. And if you're still not confident, we have a fantastic adaptive driving video on our YouTube channel. Bernadette Scarduzio did a demonstration with her hand controls, so it is still possible if you're still not comfortable driving with using your legs. We had a question here from Steve. I wear extremely rigid carbon fiber AFOs as I have no ability to move any part of my lower leg or feet. Could a dynamic portion be added to the ball of my foot forward, which is where my current AFO stops?
So from what I'm getting, it sounds like your AFO is just really, really rigid in this little section here. So probably it sounds from about here forward. We do have the capability of building in some flexibility at the toe. But once again, that's going to be a really good question for your practitioner, because if we add flexibility, what might happen is as you get out to that end range where you're taking that step, if you don't have enough feedback where it's pushing your knee into extension, you might buckle. So you just want to make sure that that is a good recommendation before you have that added in.
Gotcha. Okay. Do some braces work with boots?
Yes.
Yes.
So it just depends on how tall the boot is. So typically if you're going a little over like ankle height, you can finagle the noodle or the nano inside it and it works just fine. We don't say you can't wear a boot with it. I know some companies say, no, you can't wear a boot. Wear the boot if you want to. Just if it does have a weird angle, you might want to talk to your practitioner about, that heel height, because normally boots have a little bit higher of a heel height.
Yeah.
I've seen cowboy boots that have been modified where they've gone in and put a zipper, or they've put like Velcro, so it Velcro's open, they slide their foot in and then it Velcro's closed. So boots are an option. You might have to just get a little creative with it.
Yeah, I usually go on a online journey for full side zipper knee-high boots. Yeah, and if you go to trend-able.com, she's got tons and tons of AFO friendly boots on there. And you might want to check out Zappos as well. I know Uggs came out with a double zipper for their Ugg boots. So yeah, the more zippers, the better for boots and AFOs, definitely. Let's see. So we had a few more questions regarding Medicare. Somebody mentioned that Medicare only pays for new AFOs every 5 years. Is that your experience as well?
Yes. So unfortunately, that is the Medicare guideline. But once again, if you have a physical change where you've gained or lost a lot of weight, if your CMT has progressed and you start rolling laterally and you need a change of design of AFO, that should all be covered. So you shouldn't just be stuck to one AFO, especially after you change how you present. So if there's a major change in your life and your leg no longer looks the same as it did 6 months ago, go back to your doctor, have them document all of this, because that is something that they should be paying for.
Sure. And then yeah, that the boot, the URL is we could put it in the chat. Maybe Courtney, you can help me out with that. It's trend-able.com. And the other one is Zappos Adaptive. If you Google Zappos Adaptive, that will come up. We had somebody asking about, I know you have a lot of custom finishes and patterns. Do you also do custom skin tone, like try and match somebody's skin tone?
So we do the best that we can. It's a lot harder with skin tones and even like white, because when we fabricate these, like this one, it's probably hard to tell, but the material was a white. And after we put the resins in with it, what happens is during the curing process, it has like a yellowing color.
Okay.
So it's hard to see it, but this almost has like a little bit of a yellowing in here. And it's the same thing for the skin tones. What might look normal in a fabric, as soon as we add some resin to it, it changes a little bit.
We have those on the website.
So we do have that on our website where it kind of explains that a little bit more. But if you have a fabric that you want to send in, like you like the skin tone of it, you can send that in and we'll definitely add it to it. I just don't know if it's going to come out exactly the same as that piece of fabric.
Gotcha. Okay. And Gary's asking about clinicians near Raleigh, North Carolina. So we are encouraging everyone, if you're looking for clinicians in your area, to email Barb. So if you want to, Barb, I believe your emails, it's at it's in the chat. If you go to the chat there, yep, just email Barb and she will help you find somebody in your area that can.
It's right at the bottom of that slide. I got that up now.
Yep, there it is. If you want to take a screenshot, take a photo with your camera. But that's the email to reach Barbara and ask some additional questions. All right, we're getting a lot of questions and a lot of answers here. Does anybody want to raise their hand and ask a question? Any additional questions that have not been answered yet? Feel free to raise your hand and we'll give you an opportunity to speak. We still have a few more minutes. We have 2 people raise their hands. Deborah Cooper, we'll start with you. Hi, Deborah.
Hi. I have a problem with, not to be gross, but a smell in the brace. Is there anything we can use that I've been using a deodorant, spraying my feet with deodorant? Is there anything else that you recommend?
So that's where regular washing of your AFO comes in too. So what I've recommended before is whatever like body wash or soap that you can use, you can actually clean the AFO with that. And you just want to make sure you really kind of scrub it down really well and then let it dry fully before you put it back on. So that has worked for some people. Sometimes they come with removable pads that you can pull off and launder. But the other thing you can do, I've set it out in the sun. I know that sounds kind of weird, but there's something about the fresh air and the UV rays that helps to kill bacteria that builds up in the AFO. So if you put it outside, let that UV light work on it, it can take some of that smell out as well.
Yeah, so what about if it has padding, would washing be recommended still?
Yeah, you can absolutely wash the pad. So just don't get like a crazy brush and try to really brush it with something that's really hard bristled. You can get like a sponge, a washcloth, just get it nice and soapy and really just kind of wash that AFO. It's gross to wear it over and over again. So you can always do that. And then if it's really bad, if you've had it for a long time, take it back, go get the pads replaced. It's not a hard thing to do.
Yeah. And also, you know, after a while, the bacteria can really irritate your skin and cause rashes. So
It's spelled Helios, H-E-L.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, would rubbing alcohol not be recommended?
Rubbing alcohol works. You just want to make sure that if you do rubbing alcohol, you're rinsing it off afterwards too, because if that dries on the surface, it does create like a film. So you want to make sure that doesn't build up on the surface of the AFO because that can cause skin irritation too.
Gotcha. Somebody asked about Canada. Yes, you do have practitioners in Canada, correct?
Yes.
So Brent, yeah, email Barbara and she will help you connect with some practitioners locally. Brent, was that your question or did you want to add to that? I can bring you on here and let you speak. There we go. Hi, Brett.
It's Brent's wife, and that was our question. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right. Anyone else with questions? Yes. Let's see. All right. Well, I think we learned a lot, including myself. I'm definitely excited to learn more about these. And we are so, so grateful to you both for your dedication and for answering all of our questions and just for the work that you do for the CMT community. It's really, really important work. And I can't imagine having, not having braces that I'm comfortable walking in. It's just really makes such a world of difference. So again, if your question was not answered, or if you have any additional questions, please reach out to Barbara, and we look forward to hearing your feedback.
They were talking about the
I think Deborah was unmuted again. So again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. This webinar has been recorded and will be up on our YouTube channel in the next few days. So feel free to check back with us. And we wish everyone a great night. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.